Hi, welcome to Guitar Talk. My name is Stan Biankowitz. To your left, you're looking at Ken Unak playing, and to your right, you're looking at Mark Armstrong playing. And we're going to be talking about a duo, which eventually, we're going to start with a duo, and then we're going to end up with one player.
I forgot it was drop D.
The two players would be Eddie Lang and Lonnie Johnson, and in the late 20s, these two players got together and under Race Records, and I'm going to let Ken take it from there.
Okay, well, I think Lonnie needs a little bit of an explanation. He had a really long career. I mean, he was active. He was born in 1894 in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And he was something of a prodigy, really. He started playing right away, as soon as he could hold it like a violin. Mm-hmm. So he played violin, he played mandolin, guitar. And later on, he recorded playing piano, and he became known as one of the best early blues violinists in the 30s. Oh, wow. Yeah, before he got with Eddie Lang. And he had a huge career, but he had two different styles. And when their early style, they recorded in the 20s and 30s, he played in drop D, he played acoustically, obviously, and he played it generally in drop D, or he'd also drop the G string to A string to G. So it was like a drop D G. But he also played 12-string early on. But he took the top three high strings, the octave strings off, so he had a 9-string. And he'd play that early. He didn't play it later, but on the early stuff. And he developed his own very unique style. And the sad part of it is, even though he was here during the blues revival, he didn't make it big because everyone wanted him to play like he played in the 20s. And he actually told Dave Van Ronk he couldn't remember what he did back then. He said it was like 40 years ago, you know. Mm-hmm. And he played with a pick in the later days, always with a pick. In the early days, we don't know what he did because no one ever interviewed him about it. You know, it seems like he's muffling the bass a little bit here.
He could be playing a hybrid style too, like you were talking about.
Yeah, because you see, Johnny Shines, who hung around with Robert Johnson for a while, and they traveled around, he knew Lonnie, and he said Lonnie always played with a pick. So it might have been a hybrid style that he did.
Yeah.
And Big Bill Brunzi also said Lonnie always played with a pick. Yeah. So, but when you listen to the early recordings, it's hard to
necessarily sound that way.
You hear, I mean, he plays very distinctive. Everything's in D. He did over 125 tunes, and he boasted about it at one point. He said, "I've recorded over 125 sides over the same 3 changes, D, G, and A." And he made them different, though. So that was his early style, and which I'll demonstrate a little bit of it here. He sometimes would play monotonic, and sometimes he'd alternate, and sometimes he didn't play any bass. But he played in D, and I just have the E string dropped. To really do him well, you should drop this to the A string to G. The reason I'm not is because I play a lot of things in just drop D, and half the time when I'm trying to play Lonnie and I go to add a different turnaround, I forget that I'm tuned down there, and so I'm going to do Lonnie with just the bottom string.
Yep. Okay.
Let's see. Let's do a little bit. Almost forgot those diminished chords. Now what he does on the turnarounds here, if you notice this, he plays everything with these flat 3 to 3 to 1. 1 is a big, the root of the chord is a big stopping play, target note for him.
Can you start that run just a little bit again? Right, we're in the key of D.
But he's playing a B here. So we have to look at what kind of notes he's using. And this is a famous Lonnie bend on the 2nd degree right here.
You're bending up to the flat 3.
Bends it up to the flat 3. And then he'll slide. And he's back with that 6th again.
Right, right.
And then he'll go to another D position. He goes up and down the neck this way, and he does the same thing in G. Now here's a turnaround. He uses diminished chords. Ends it with an actual dominant 7.
Right to the
Now
Do that again.
sometimes
Would you do that again? Yep.
it's A diminished, A flat diminished, or you could call it G sharp. It's a functioning as a
Yep.
G sharp to an A7. It's this line, but he does it with diminished chords, and then he puts
5, 5, 7. Yeah.
yeah, or he'll stay on and he'll also do this. Keep it diminished
Right.
all the way
Sure.
down.
Yep. Yep.
And then I'll go to the and just go to the
D.
root.
Yep.
But he'll put these diminished chords in places you don't really like see. Let's say we're on the 4 chord. One, 2, 3, 4.
Ooh. Nice.
Okay, sure. Sure.
So that's a really nice one. It comes in. He plays actually we measure what 7 and 8, 4, 1, and then it comes on 2. To the 5, 7, to the 4. Going back. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom.
Nice.
So he uses these all over the place, these diminished chords. So they'll come out of the blue. He'll be playing just like, I'm going to go to a 5 chord, but he'll go to a, so he just sticks that diminished chord in with a D bass.
Yeah.
So it's really like a D diminished, but it's functioning
As
like
an
5,
E7.
7 of,
Yeah, E7 with a flat 9.
Yeah.
Good luck. Yeah.
of the
Yep.
5.
Which I know is not going to be understood
So-
by a lot of people.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll come out of that and go,
Yeah. Sure.
so a little bit more about his style here. Some things I'm not doing. He likes to play thirds. And he doesn't make them staccato. He'll make sure that it's legato, the legato as you can make them. And he'll do it on an A chord. Oop. And so forth.
Nice.
But he'll do 12 bars with just thirds.
Now, the amazing thing of all these players that we're talking about and have been talking about is there was, in many cases, very little foundation, very little, people, resources to work with. You know, it's like when electric guitar started to solo, they listened to horn players and other people for reference of what to do when you solo, what sounds good when you solo. But many of these guys didn't have very much of that. They just kind of just went out. It was just like they picked up the instrument and they invented this.
He invented it,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
If you know, there's things missing from Lonnie's playing when you think of the early style. You don't hear these those kind of turnarounds.
Right.
That almost, because it's partially this.
Right.
But you don't hear, number one, this turnaround wasn't really invented yet because Robert Johnson invented it.
Right.
So Lonnie's putting all these turnarounds, usually always based on diminished chords. You know.
Well, it was a lot of the stuff. You know, the only thing they could reason with when they were creating these songs were other songs that were out at the time, like 5 Foot 2 Eyes. No, that was later, wasn't it? Tipper Through the Tulips was pretty early. That was like the early 1924, I think, maybe 25.
Yeah, I don't know on that one.
Yeah, but well, you got to figure. I mean, recording had just started, and to me, recording is what enabled people to learn how to solo. Until people could hear other people solo, it was really hard to understand what to do. So ironically, the total creative process is once you can hear someone else, now I can be creative, which was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
But these guys were, before that were basically in a vacuum, and they just had the local people that they bounced off of, and that's probably why we have so many regional styles. Is because because there's just a group of people heard each other, and these people heard each other, and they just kind of went with what they heard.
Yeah.
And so it makes total sense to me. And then now we don't have as many regional styles because now everyone is listening to more or less the same stuff. More or less.
More or less.
More or less, yeah. It's sort of, it has evolved, I guess.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
One thing about Lonnie with this single line stuff, everyone credits Charlie Christian with that single line playing. And Lonnie was literally playing it with a pick, single lines, when he changed his style 10 years earlier, than that.
Oh, right.
He just doesn't get the credit for what he's doing, what he did. And when he got with Eddie Lang, we didn't talk about Eddie Lang yet.
No, we haven't talked about Eddie.
Okay, well, his real name was Salvatore Massoro.
Okay.
And so he called himself Eddie Lang. But when he recorded with Lonnie, whose real name was Alonzo, by the way, that's why he got Lonnie from.
Yeah.
He recorded as Blind Willie Dunn. And that was because those recordings were race records, and they were marketed to blacks in the South. And the Blind Willie Dunn, he got that name from apparently his newsboy.
Yeah.
His newsboy that he bought his evening paper from was Blind Willie Dunn. And in one of Grossman's books, there's a section by a guy named Obrecht, I think. He's a blues historian. He said that it's rumored that he actually paid the guy, Blind Willie Dunn, a royalty for using his name.
Oh, wow.
So whenever he'd do a recording as Blind Willie Dunn, he'd give the guy a few bucks. So
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Lonnie said Eddie Lang was the nicest man he ever knew, that he ever played with. And the two of them were phenomenal together. You can hear, I think, all the beginnings of all the later jazz guys in there.
Well, Eddie was one of the first of the soloing guitar players.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to interject a comment by a gentleman named Roy Smeck.
Oh, yeah.
Who was a virtuoso string player in the 20s, 30s. He lived all the way into the 90s, into his 90s. Even had a line of instruments under the Harmony name from ukuleles, and they asked him in an interview, they go, who's your favorite jazz player? And they thought he was going to say someone like Charlie Christian or these other players, because he was already, he'd been playing all through the 50s and into the early 60s before retiring. They thought they were going to get someone more closer in lineage, and he goes, Eddie Lang. And he goes, really? He goes, I know Eddie Lang. I don't know those other guys. They mentioned about 6 or 7 names. What'd you think of this guy? What do you think of Johnny Johnny Smith, and he's like, I don't know them. I know Eddie Lang. And they go, what'd you like best about Eddie Lang? He goes, the most incredible right-hand picking style I think I've ever seen in my life. Was his comment about Eddie Lang.
Lonnie Johnson actually said that Eddie was the finest guitar player that Lonnie had ever known.
Yeah, same thing with Roy. Yeah, he said the best. And ironically, he died very early. I think it was from a tonsillectomy, believe it or not, back in the early 30s. So, but now we got up to Eddie, and this is where we stand.
We'll get up to. It's one thing I want to go back here with Lonnie. I know we've gone over it real quickly, but and that is when you look at what he's doing, he seems to be he's playing this D here. Not so much this D, but he's got this going, and he's moving up these forms, up the fingerboard, basically. You know.
Now, are you playing the high E string?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you play the D, you're eliminating it, or what's when you're in first position? How are you doing that?
Oh, when I did that, I just played a regular D chord.
Oh.
But in a lot of it, I think he plays with this fingering more so because you have more mobility.
Yeah, he's playing like he stays in second position.
Oh, so you're talking about him barring the D as opposed to playing.
He's not doing. What I'm saying is his thinking. If you want to start to think like maybe he did, you know, there's these chord positions, all in D up the neck here.
Yep.
And essentially, he's playing out of those. He's not playing the chord forms itself.
Yeah,
But he's playing around it.
Right.
And he's got that sixth in there, which is such a big note for him with the. And if you do it in second position here, it just falls under the fingers. And another famous. He mixes this scale, this D. It's like D, E, flat 3. The natural 3 to the 5. There's very little 4 ever played. If you notice that when I do this, it's no 4.
Yeah.
But in regular blues,
you hear a lot
of 4, but you don't with Lonnie.
like that kind of stuff.
You know, but you hear the 6th and the 2nd, and she bends up to the flat 3. But he'll mix it with the blues scale like this. That's a big Lonnie kind of lick.
Do that again. Do that lick again.
And then he'll do this. This is his kind of a signature.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that 6th right there, the minor 6th. He'll end on that. Sometimes it'll be on 1, sometimes he'll do it on 4 and, depends how his phrasing's going. But it'll usually come down from that. And you got a Lonnie lick there. So that, and if you put that into your improvisation with a slide here, you're starting to get Lonnie. You know, you can pull it off as it's Lonnie and throw a diminished chord in there.
So I can see one of the advantages of having the A string tuned to G, because you spend most of your time with the 1 and the 4 chords.
Right.
And now you have open strings, and the A chord is just a quickie, so you just finger that for, tying up a finger. Yeah, definitely.
It is an advantage, and it does hurt me in my playing because he plays a lot. He'll use an open G,
right,
and he'll play this form, but he'll play the 9th on the G.
And you need to.
And that's a little hard for me to get with the way I'm fingering in it, you know. But to play more authentically like Lonnie, you'd want to do that.
Yeah.
It just changes your A7 chord. you'd have to bar all the way up there to get a
Right.
A.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's actually
But that's
easy, pretty
easier.
easy. Yeah. And then the other A is up here.
Yeah,
It's going to be at the 7th fret.
Right.
On
which I use a lot. Well, I use, but actually, it's good we're taking the time to talk about these little nuances. But he doesn't really use, the only real chords he ever plays are a dominant 7. He'll finger an A7
Yeah.
like that. And he'll use this form for an A or a G.
it's just a straight major
But that's
chord.
about it.
Yeah.
And he likes this D7 here.
Right. Okay.
And the other thing I should mention about Lonnie.
What's the fingers on that D7 there?
So it's 2, 2, 3, 1, 4.
Yeah.
Well, this is this one.
That's if you do the whole thing. He usually just
This is
plays.
that classical one.
Yeah.
If you take this
Oh.
D7 chord and move these 2 fingers to here, and you get the top. Yeah, yeah, and A on top. Yeah, that's a, see, because we normally play it like this. You always add the 9th to it, so you
Right,
don't see
right.
that shape as much. That's more of a classical. I've seen that more in classical
Yeah.
music. Is that kind of dominant chord?
Well, Lonnie would do it with 3 fingers.
Right, sure.
And just,
Yeah, because then
yeah.
you can do.
And then he could move it around.
Right. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, once you get down to 2 and 3 strings, you have much more mobility and much more choices of notes. You're not locked into things as much. Definitely. So.
So, what do you say we try this?
Sure, sure. You want me to count you in and
Yeah. Count me in, and we'll see if we can.
Now,
get
this
it
is a
going.
piece that was done by
yep.
Well, it's in the style of
Okay.
Lonnie and Eddie Lang. And I'm going to, Eddie incidentally usually always played the rhythm parts, and Lonnie took the leads. It's not, I mean, Eddie did take a lot of leads, but in general, he'd play the rhythm. And I think it was because he added all these bass notes in there, which I can't do, but I'm just going to chord it. And when you hear the two of them together, it's just phenomenal.
So who's playing Eddie and who's playing Lonnie?
I'm playing Eddie, and
I'm playing Lonnie.
he's Lonnie.
Okay.
I'm Lonnie. I'm Alonzo.
He's Alonzo, and I'm Salvatore. There was one last thing I wanted to mention about those guys, but it'll come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so 1 and 2, 3.
Nice, guys. Very nice. So let's recite the progression. That way we can tell the people what the changes were that we were going through.
Well, the changes
you know
are
what
really
we can do?
simple.
May I just...
Sure. The one thing, what I did with the changes,
You get a close-up
I
on
played,
that?
I played them all on the middle four strings.
A little more if you can.
Yep. Because you were playing
There we go.
that lovely drop D thing still.
Yeah.
Which in
So
the key of
those
C
are the
is not always the
changes.
best thing.
If you want to pause your TV set or your computer,
Yep.
those are the changes. And now I'm going to put up what Mark was reading.
Which is
Yes, it was well. He's a well-read man. See if we can get that squared up. So there's the. Oops. Let me get that. There we go. And if you, I need my glasses, but I'm assuming you can see the chord changes above all the notes. I think that's a good shot of that.
So basically, what is the elements of this soloing? Is it like a arpeggios with
it's
connected
a
with
lot of
chromatic?
chord tones. It's a lot of chord tones. It's a lot of inside notes, you know, and then a lot of bluesy notes put against almost any chord you want, like the same bluesy notes, the flat 3, the flat 5 sometimes. Surprisingly, he doesn't use the flat 7 that much. He really likes that 6 cadence more,
Yeah.
which to me I always call is the folky cadence, as opposed to the
Yeah.
raised 7th or that. So it gives you that. I suppose, which gives it definitely more of a bluesy, that what we call bluesy flavor.
Right.
But I think this was, and I think that a lot of this was associated with the pop music of the time. And
Exactly.
that was, the kind of the cadences they were using at that point.
Well, it's kind of like a lot of the country hybrid scales that are being used today
Right.
in modern country. I was on YouTube listening to the 36 greatest country licks, and I'm like, it's just like a hybrid scale, half blues and half
Yeah.
half major scale.
Yep.
So you're combining the two pentatonics with a couple of the 6 note being one of that bunch, the 4 note going over to the major pentatonic, which usually isn't included in the major pentatonic. Now it's and then the flat 7, which isn't included in the major pentatonic, and a little bit of flat 5 and flat 3, which are the proverbial blues tones. And look, we're out of time. Oh my God, we're blinking zeros. Guys, take us out of here. We're gonna be back for another show, so see you soon. Thanks again. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Mark. Take care, all.
Yep, have a good